friends, welcome to today's video. I am super excited because I have carved out a bunch of time for today to be able to sit down and just play in my journals. I want to take you through some of the thought processes I have with all the little piles of junk that I collect. And I say junk in the most loving way. I love my junk, but let's face it, it's just bits of paper, bits of old drawings and scraps that float around in pouches on my desk, on the floor, Oliver's bed, literally anywhere these papers could end up, they do end up. And so I want to kind of collect a bunch of them today and use them in whatever I feel like creating. I want to be very loose today. I'm feeling that way, so I kind of just want to go with it. Having said that, I do have ideas for the stuff that I'm going to grab, and this is something I kind of wanted to touch on today. How many times do you have something that you think, oh, I'll just put that over there because I know when I use it, I've got an idea for that? I know you're all guilty. I think we've all done it in not just art journaling, but I think in a lot of different things. We all have these grand plans, or not even, you know, semi-small plans, but any kind of a plan. We think we have the best of intentions to do something and use it the way we think we're going to use it. Ultimately, that stuff might end up never in your journals, or by the time you come to use it, that original idea was gone, you've forgotten it, or maybe you want to do something else with it, in which case I encourage you to do that. So that's probably what we're going to look at today. I have so many things, and I've always just looked at them and kept them around, and I thought, when I use that, I've got a good idea for that, and I'm going to do this. I feel like all of those ideas are probably going to fly out the window today because I'm feeling very loose, but I'm going to pop into a voiceover because I'm about to put on some movies. I'm going to grab some Whitney, Britney, Shania, Mariah, Celine. I'm going to get the playlist on and just have a fabulous time creating, just experimenting, playing. I'm going to show you the mistakes. I'll pop into the voiceover and tell you kind of the ideas I had for what I'm working on and maybe how long those pieces have been sitting in my stash for, whether it was a success or not, or whether I could possibly take the idea from that session and move it into another idea, because a lot of what you're about to see, well, the off-camera version of it, this creative kind of a play session is where I get a lot of my ideas to do tutorials or video content or lessons, classes, workshops, products. Anything that I do in these sessions typically is the catalyst for what you guys end up receiving. So I think I just wanted to give you a little bit of behind the scenes to see how chaotic it can become and just see, you know, what garden path I might be led down today, because some days are better than others. I feel great today. I feel super ready to do this, but at the same time, have you ever had money to go and shop and then you found nothing that you wanted? Sometimes it gets a bit like that. Sometimes I could have the very best of intentions just to play and go wild and be loose, and I'll labor over one piece for about 6 hours. So my intentions are just to be loose and free and take all the junk that I've been hoarding and use it in the way that I thought I would originally use it. If not, take it in a different direction, see what happens, just experiment and play. And I want to share that with you today. So I'll pop up into a voiceover and get cracking. No, scratch that. I just finished my big play session and I did not do what I set out to do. I did a little bit. A few things I had an idea for before and I did end up trying them and finish that. But mostly this was a big play session. I think I've been having way too much time at the computer lately, and I just thought, when I saw all my paints and everything at the table, I thought, this is it, this is on, I'm about to get real messy here, very dangerous. I'm going to put the paint water too close to the computer, and I'm going to get paint everywhere I shouldn't. So that's just kind of what I went for. So I'm going to try something a little bit different today and talk you through what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Usually I just like to get sidetracked with other conversation. I'm not going to say that's not going to happen, but yeah, we'll see. Today, basically, this is kind of a great video actually, because I struggle to get the footage that's in this video. This is me playing, forgetting that the camera's on. This is me being super brave, just going in, doing things I don't think that are going to work out. I'm experimenting, I'm trying random things, and just really being loose and free with everything. I mean, me finger painting this face, I don't think I would ever try to, oh no, I wouldn't say ever, but typically this is not something I'd like to do on camera. This is something I'd like to try by myself with no one watching, or if I do it on camera, I'll only show it if it works out. I had the added bonus of actually liking this piece today, so who knows, maybe if it didn't work out I wouldn't have shown you, but I'm gonna like to think that I would have been a little bit braver today. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I wanted to go for a bit of a craft paper look in the background, so I patchworked together some different different craft papers, one from a big journal, one was a post-it note, an unbleached craft post-it note from Muji, another one was a bit of a brown paper bag that I just ripped up, which I probably shouldn't have because all of my stickers were in there. Now they're just kind of floating around with no home. But I really needed it, so I did it. I really like that, and I'm just finger painting with Handmade Modern paints. These are acrylic paints from Target. They're $2 and change. Obviously, American Target. I'm sorry if you guys can't find these at your Targets, but they might be online. I'm not quite sure. I have seen them sold online before. I don't know if shipping costs would probably be way too much though. So either way, there's tons of other acrylics you could use. These are just really inexpensive, and there's lots of beautiful colors. They say satin, but the satin is a matte finish, I've found. So they work really well with all of your mixed media, and I just kind of really love them. Something else I've been playing with that I'll play with at the end of the video as well is a white Posca brush pen. It's a paint marker, just like all the other Posca paint markers, but it's a brush tip. I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's not super opaque, but it is buildable, and I just really like it because it's like having a paintbrush ready to go. And I think for mixed media, it's always nice to have another white thing to try. Always in the perpetual hunt for the best white pen. This is definitely not it, but it is a bit of a novelty to have a brush pen version of it. I haven't used any other white brush pen things, so I really like it for that. And brush pens are really great for drawing leaves and vines, which I've had an ultra obsession with lately. Every piece I did today has a leaf or a vine in it, so I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. Big recommendation for you, if you have never tried this before, is using gel pens. I love gel pens because you can do all of your line details with them. I love that if they're water reactive, you can just grab a really fine paintbrush and just pull and push some of that ink around. I'm going to do it just on the eye here, and I think it's such a beautiful effect because it kind of gives it a nice little like soft focus, kind of a blur moment. I'm getting that from Mindy Lacefield. I think Mindy did a class called Blurred Edges. I didn't do the class, but I saw all of her Instagram posts and it was super beautiful, and this is giving me very that. Gel ink pens, I think a lot of us when we're looking for pens are always concerned about having them be waterproof. I'm not so much concerned about that because I do like to try this technique a lot. I love my water media, I love things looking really loose, and I love that this is kind of getting the best of both worlds, having a very structured, very clean and crisp line, but also having that kind of blown out, soft, blurred line. Like, I like the dynamic between that, and I think it lent itself really well here. Also, if you've got colored pens, it's going to pull out a nice color. So I've used a navy on this because a black I thought would have been too stark on that soft pastel color palette, and the navy pulled out this really beautiful blue. So just kind of living for it, to be honest. This is a transparent vellum post-it note from Muji as well. I was on a post-it note binge at Muji. You can see the little checklist one there on the left as well. And there's a little daily, I think I showed this in the lens clip back last week, but this is their little daily checklist thing. Honestly, way too small to write anything on, but I loved the novelty look of it. The Japanese could write on that. The Japanese have beautiful small handwriting, not me. I'm like with everything else, a bulldozer in a china shop. Is that what it's called? Bulldozer? Bull in a china shop? Who knows? I'm just aggressive and heavy-handed, and I've always wished to be delicate though. Here, I'm gonna get sidetracked again. There was a girl in my math class, her name was Sue, and she was a Korean exchange student, and she had the tiniest handwriting. Actually, I don't know if she was an exchange student. I think she was. I think she was part of a cultural exchange program. Either way, super sweet girl. She had the smallest handwriting, and I have never claimed to not cheat. And I used to copy her in math class, but you could tell when I did because my writing would go from my size to Sue's size, and there was just like this big difference. And for the life of me, like, I did it a bunch of times. I kept copying her, and I was never the wiser to keep the handwriting my size, but she was always right, and I found math very difficult. You guys have heard my my reviews before where I get the numbers out. I think it's no surprise to you that I didn't do that well in math. I did advanced math, and I did like okay, but once I was out of that classroom, I lost all of it. I gave all of that space in my memory to something else. And it was never to be replaced with math ever again. So anyway, we moved on. I loved the last piece. Really, really happy. I loved the last piece. I was really happy to have had success with that, because I was trying things that were, you know, it's very easy to fail when you're trying to finger paint a whole face, especially one that's supposed to look a little whimsical. So very happy about that. That's kind of the first time I think I've ever succeeded with that finger painting challenge for myself. And this piece I had started before. This piece you've seen on Instagram, you've seen it on Insta Story. It's advertised my coloring books. It's a photocopy from my mermaid coloring book, which should be back in stock in a couple of weeks. Everything's paid for and it's just being made and shipped as soon as it's ready. But I'll let everyone know when that goes back up. This is super fun for me because I have done the original piece and I remember what the original was, and then now I have the opportunity to go completely the opposite direction and color it in a bunch of different ways. So the original piece was inspired by Jo Houlihan of Josie's Muse. She has those beautiful, like, angelic dreamscape watercolors with all those fun little creatures, and I used that color palette inspiration to color this piece. And then once the coloring book came and I was, you know, retrying everything, I just used it as my excuse to go completely the opposite. So I think I think this is literally the opposite of Josie's Muse. This like acid trip, full vibrant, you know, fish fantasy. I'm living for it. I tried to put it in my off-camera journal, but it's a little too big. That's the Chic Sparrow Fraser Leather Red A5. I really, really love that. I've been using it for 2 weeks maybe. I'll have a review and a first impressions video coming out on YouTube, so just check that if you want to know how it's going. But plot twist, I really do enjoy it. And I've fallen down a steep rabbit hole, and I think Jen, Harvey and I are going to have some discussions about future notebooks. But yeah, it's super beautiful. Either way, back into my leaves and vines. Loves my leaves and vines. I've got my Muji gel ink pen again. I'm not doing any water soft focus with this one. I'm just going to, do some detail work with some leaves. It's very therapeutic. Who knew, right? And then I've got some journaling on the back that was just relevant to how I was feeling this weekend. If you read it and if you're curious, all will be revealed on Wednesday in your podcast. Steve and I have a massive chat about a little incident that happened on the weekend that kind of sent me into a bit of a tailspin, and it's a little, I will be honest, I don't love to show anything on camera that is personally revealing like that, and we talk about it in the podcast, and I had a big breakthrough moment, but I did think it was kind of important to show that I am truly bothered by some things, and I, as positive as I try to be, I do struggle, and my journal is a place where I get to vent some of that out, and I think that's why this was a good example to show you today, because I did kind of forget that this was going to become a video, and I was being a bit more personal in my approach to some of this stuff today. So either with the confidence that I had trying to finger paint a face, or with the journaling that I wrote about, just some of the stuff that I typically wouldn't try to put on camera. This is my train car of curiosities. I got this washi tape on my 27th birthday in Japan last year at the Travelers Company store, the Travelers Factory in Tokyo Station, and I will be honest, I've used the tape 1 or 2 times since then, because I'm not big into trains, but I had to get it because it was such a great memory of my birthday and being in Japan with Steve. We have a full vlog and full journals, travel journals. I think I did 3 or 4 travel journals on that trip. Full flip of that. If you want to go check that out, it's all on YouTube, but we had a fantastic time. You can even see me in the shop buying that washi tape. But yeah, I loved it. I just never really needed a reason to use train washi tape, and then I thought, well, if I have all these other little flake seals and stickers and other washi tapes with little things on them, I could just make my train car of curiosities and have fun like that. And I love this idea. It's been something that's been tinkering in the back of my brain, and I thought I'm finally going to try it today, and I love it. So if you have a train washi tape and some stickers, I'd love to see your train car of curiosities. It was kind of like that idea, when the circus comes to town in the good old like Water for Elephant days. And you know, it's all packed up and everything is, you see the train car and there's a lion in there, and you know, like children's books have that. I'm really not honestly sure if it's called something specific and I just can't remember it right now, but I think you get what I'm talking about. Like when the circus comes to town and you see the train, that's what that is. That was the inspo, and kind of really happy that I finally did that today, because I've been thinking about that for, I'm not kidding, like maybe 2 or 3 months now. This is the time that I set aside to do it. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how long some things will be in your brain before you actually give it a moment, like give it their 15 minutes. So glad to do that today. You would have seen just then, I used the Elmer's glue stick to put as the base for my collage, and then I put it over the top. Now I did that because I thought the ink from these inkjet prints would react with the distress medium, the matte, because it's very liquid, and I didn't want it to pull and push the ink everywhere. But these have been dry for so long, I don't think it would have been a problem. And the problem with putting the Elmer's glue down first and not letting it fully cure is that when I put the matte medium over the top, as I thought it was going to be like a sealant, it kind of pulled the glue underneath like a weird skin texture. I know that sounds awful, but you can see it down the bottom right hand corner. You can kind of see that odd texture, and it looks like a dirty texture, not like a nice, you know, crackle or glaze, or like it's not a nice texture. I don't think it's a texture, so I could just pretend I was going for it, but I'll be honest, it was not something that I thought would be a good thing. I just thought that maybe Elmer's glue, if it was fully cured, might act like a sealant, which it might. I just maybe didn't give it enough time to cure. But this is one of those moments where I will just test something like that to see if it works out. And you know, if it does, then that's one of those things that I get to bring to YouTube and say, hey guys, like, do you want to save $1? Just use Elmer's glue instead of this. You know, you never really find that stuff out unless you actually try those dumb things. So I'm not going to say it was fully dumb yet. Maybe it does work and I just didn't do it the right way. I won't be tempted to try it again anytime soon because I have the mediums that do work. But you know, it's always there in the back of my mind should I need to try and problem solve in a certain way. Maybe I might need that texture in the future, one of these textures. Case in point, actually, Steve needed a kind of like a book. He needed, for his Harry Potter shoot, he needed a book that looked like it was covered in like a really aged leather or kind of like an animal skin, and we didn't have the money to go and buy an animal skin and cover a book with it for his, you know, his shoot. But I used the Tim Holtz distress medium, the antique one, and I had melted it with the heat tool, and it kind of bubbled and made this texture on it. And then I used some of distress ink and just rubbed it over the surface so it kind of looked a little scorched and aged, and it actually turned out really, really well. So some of those things that, you know, like maybe this didn't work for this piece that I'm working on because the texture, I wish it was just kind of like a clean and, you know, flat kind of a look. That might come in handy for a project in the future, like some Halloween texture that I might need to use or to make on a page. You just never know. I don't think anything's ever really truly done in vain when you're experimenting. So this piece, honestly, no rhyme or reason to it. I think what I really got carried away with was the therapeutic feeling of drawing these leaf shapes. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but just draw 1,000 leaves over your page and tell me you're not relaxed at the end of it. I just love it, and I've been using this Pentel pigment brush pen to do this really you know, hard to control squiggly line that's very varied in line width. This whole page gave me a very Bai Bun feeling. Roxanne Coble. If you see Bai Bun, she's got these beautiful textured backgrounds with this overlay of you know, imagery and lots of layers that look like they're going in and out of each other. This gave me a very Bai Bun feeling when I was looking at it at the end, so I'm just going to say I was inspired by Bai Bun. and I love the look of it. I mean, I know the subject matter is very different. I tend to stay more on the airy-fairy side, quite literally, but Bai Bun. Roxanne has an undeniable talent, and I do love looking at her mixed media techniques because they're super inspiring for trying your own stuff. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to show you some close-ups of everything and put on some music. Hope you have a fantastic week. Look out for the podcast on Wednesday, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
I wake up from the sunshine on my face, so dehydrated, don't know what to say. Who's sleeping by my side? What did I do last night? Can someone make this headache go away? Yesterday was supposed to be quiet, being to myself and sit in silence, until I got a call. My friend showed up at my door. They wanted me to go out for a while. We were dancing in the dark with a feeling in our eyes. Felt like we had it all. We were dancing in the dark. We were dancing in the dark. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Every morning after feels the same. I know I only have myself to blame for drinking way too much. I guess I got caught up. Can someone make this headache go away? We were dancing in the dark with a feeling in our eyes. Felt like we had it all. We were dancing in the dark. We were dancing in the dark. We were dancing in the dark.